Play fake. And Cutler has a wide open receiver downfield, and it's Kenny Stills.
Welcome to the Fantasy War Room podcast. We are here with my man Dalton Kates once again with your Fantasy NFL. What's up, man?
How's it going?
All right, so let's get into it. Your hot take, you brought it to me today. You said that Kenny Stills is going to be a top 20 fantasy wide receiver this season. I assume you're talking about PPR, correct?
Yeah, so been so severely undervalued and underrated this season. When you bring in two guys like Albert Wilson and Danny Amendola off the street, we know that, wide receivers tend to struggle in their first year with a new team. So to expect those guys to take over vacated Landry in a way like those between all the racks and everything. I don't know how it all accumulated, but there's a total of around 300 targets available up for grabs.
Yeah, and last year was the first time in his career that he got over 100 targets. I think it was 100 targets, 55% with Jay Cutler. So what can we realistically expect this year? Like, if he's healthy and starts all 16 games, what do you think can be the stat line realistically?
That's a good question. Last year he had, 847 yards, 6 touchdowns. I'm expecting, to get, 1,000 yards. It's reasonable to expect him to get around, 115, 120 targets. A 10 to 15 target increase from last year is certainly within that range of outcomes for him. And he can honestly get more than that.
How cheap can we get Kenny Stills for at this time? Like, whether you're trying to draft him in a redraft or you're trying to trade for him, like, what's realistic and how you can get him? Or rookie draft picks, like, with whatever capital in different formats, like, what can you do to get him? Because I feel like maybe the hype is building now that, he's the guy in Miami, it seems like.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think as far as rookie picks go, throwing out a second rounder, whether it's I think even a high second rounder is certainly worth it. And I think he's gonna, I think if you can throw in a second and like fourth or second and a third to make that deal happen, I think that's something you certainly have to do. When you look at where he's being drafted in Dynasty, he's being drafted around those, wide receivers going in that second round, whether it's Anthony Miller or, Michael Gallup, around those guys. And I'd much rather have a guy like Kenny Stills who's proven, who's gotten it done. So I'm totally okay in Dynasty drafting him there. As far as redraft goes, like, it's ridiculous. He's getting drafted like 10th, 11th round. I'm drafting him like in every single one of my drafts because it's so crazy. He should be going at least 3 rounds earlier.
So why don't people trust him?
They haven't seen him blow up yet. They've seen him be consistent, but they've seen maybe there are concerns because maybe he produced a little more with Matt Moore than he did with Jay Cutler, and there could be some concerns there. But breaking down the numbers, breaking down the vacated targets, breaking down how efficient he's been, he's a better bet than Devontae Parker to perform this year.
You heard me.
He's being drafted behind Devontae Parker. And just because he doesn't have that first-round pedigree, he's a 5th-round pick. He's heading into the prime of his career. 27 years old, historically, has been the peak season for wide receivers. He's heading into that season. So getting a guy in his prime who should be, he may not be the target leader, but I think he'll certainly be the most efficient guy there depending on how much Adam Gase still likes Devontae Parker. Regardless, even if Parker falls out, Kenny still can certainly be top 20 receiver.
Dude, and if you're in Dynasty, like a Dynasty redraft league or whatever, if you're in Dynasty format and you acquire Kenny Stills, it's okay. And it's actually a better thing. Like, you're not depending on him in just 2018. You want him to be, your starter in 2018. But I think we should expect soon for the Dolphins to make a change at quarterback, whether it's free agency or they draft a first-round guy. Like, sooner or later, that quarterback situation has to improve if Ryan Tannehill can get it done. Like, this is it for him.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, this is a great buying opportunity. I think this is the time to buy Kenny Stills. I think that once he does have a good year this year, then, maybe that window will have closed. So even though the hype is building up, it's certainly a time to buy him now because, I think people are genuinely questioning who is going to lead the team in targets because they gave Albert Wilson a solid contract out there. They gave him $8 million a year, $5 years for $40 million. So that's a pretty hefty contract there. And then Devontae Still's the first round pedigree. And, there's reports out of camp that, Danny Amendola maybe has been the favorite target for, Tannehill. But regardless, I'm buying Stills. I think he's a safe bet there.
It looks like Kenny Stills has a chance to still, lead the team in targets. There's a pretty good chance if he can. Do you think it's possible he can go over like 130 targets and catch more than like 75 balls?
I certainly think that's possible. I'm not gonna go out there and project that because I don't know if they're willing to give him that much. But I certainly it seems so possible that could happen. And if you're looking at a guy that's getting 130 targets, how many players in the league are able to do that and command that target share? There's not that many, maybe 10, 15 max. So if he eclipses 130 targets, you're talking about a top 15 wide receiver at that, just based off of how efficient he will be with his targets, and he's a very deep receiver too, so he's going to be getting those long touchdowns. And at the end of the year, we're going to be looking at a wide receiver ranking that is fairly high.
It's all about volume, right? Like if he can just stay healthy and he can just get those targets, if he catches 60% of them, that looks pretty good. And you go back to his player profiler comparison, it's Mike Wallace. So that shows that he's, like you said, a deep ball threat running a 4.38. And I think that fits well for what Ryan Tannehill's skill set is. It's just Ryan Tannehill needs to stay healthy. And I don't know who the Dolphins have behind him in case he doesn't stay healthy. So that's where I'm concerned. Does that concern you that there really isn't a great quarterback situation there?
No, because Jay Cutler was a quarterback last year, like you mentioned, and he was terrible. Kenny Stills ranked 98th amongst wide receivers in catchable target rate. He had a 65% of his targets were catchable. That's ridiculous. Like Tannehill should be able to improve that. The fact that it's ridiculous to have 68 out of his 105 targets were considered catchable, and he turned 68 of those catchable targets into 58 receptions. So there's only 10 catchable targets that he didn't produce on there. So it really can't get worse than it was last year for him. If they're getting the ball in his vicinity, he's gonna make it happen.
And if he's your third wide receiver, you're pretty happy then.
Yeah, and in a lot of drafts, I'm able to get him as my fourth wide receiver. So it's great. Just draft him early. If you're doing early drafts, make sure to pounce on that. Because I do think that his ADP is going to climb as the market really starts to correct itself on Kenny Stills. So I do think he'll jump a couple rounds. Probably to the 8th, 9th turn once we hit August.
Great value there if you're looking at him. All right, Dalton Kates, thanks a lot, man. Good insight on that. You love Kenny Stills. Let's see how he does this season, man.
Let's see it.